So now it's my great pleasure to bring Rainer Deutschmann, Group Chief Operating Officer from Telia Company, into this conversation. Telia is the leading Nordic and Baltic operator and has embedded on one of the most daring digital transformation exercises some 3 years ago. Telia has also selected Ericsson as one of the key strategic partners into this transformation. We are very proud of our collaboration and on this ongoing transformation, and I think we have achieved a lot here together. So, Rainer, let's start with the drivers. What are your ambitions and strategic goals for this transformation?
First of all, thanks, Mats, for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be with you and talking about the joint partnership that we have established. As you said, we started some 3 years ago. With what we call a customer experience-led transformation. That means we start off where do we want to have the customer experience and the customer journeys want to be, and what does it require in terms of the components and the capabilities that go into delivering those end-to-end journeys. And we have basically followed the mantra of simplification, standardization, and then scaling across our 5 Ps. And what are the 5 Ps? We say we need to do the 3S, the simplification, standardization, and scaling on the products, on the processes, on the platforms, with our people and skills, and also with our partners. When it comes to simplification, just to give an example, we simplified radically the legacy products and the legacy platforms down to less than half of the legacy as compared to when we started. When it's about standardization, a good example is standardizing on the TM Forum APIs so that we can really have the components talk to each other much more in a Lego brick manner. And when it comes to scaling, it's really about having those standards and then building it once and deploying it many times. Specifically, when it comes to Telia, we deploy across our market so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel many times.
Thanks. You talked about partners. How is Ericsson contributing into this transformation?
Yeah, so one of the key things that we did in the partnership is we have reset the partners into much fewer but very strategic partners. And obviously Ericsson has been selected early on when we started in 2020 and 2021 as a key partner, not only for the RAN, but also across the IT, the BSS, all the way to the OSS, and also as a third component to drive innovation partnerships. So it's a very deep and broad partnership that we have selected, you as Ericsson, and we are very happy about the way how we have gone since then.
So Rainer, transformation has been ongoing. Can you tell us about some results you already see now?
Yes. I mean, the transformation has delivered significant. Overall, we see a turnaround back to growth on top and bottom line. We also see a turnaround since quite a few quarters now on the Net Promoter Score, on the customer experience, which is very, very, of course, good. And one specific example I wanted to give maybe, which is one of the most relevant and biggest transformations we probably have ever done, which is the entire B2B segment in Sweden, which is obviously our core business in that market, where we have seen a very untransformed starting point in 2020. And we really have put in place what I was mentioning at the beginning, a customer experience-led transformation, where we defined the B2B experience and the customer journeys. We looked at what are the components and we put them in place. And the good thing is now, specifically with the product catalog-centric setup, we now have the ability to scale the new products that are coming in along the same customer journey. And we started with the business internet, which is quite a difficult product. It's a fixed line product where we have seen it took typically weeks to actually provide that product after the customer wanted it to the customer. And now the time has come down to minutes. So we see the experience, the dramatic experience improvement, providing a very significant product to the customers already coming through. We also see, by the way, which is very heartwarming, that the people operating the sales and the service systems have a much better satisfaction internally because they see it actually does work and the customer really has a much better satisfaction. And last but not least, what we also see is that the fallouts, which typically happen if something doesn't really work together in the BSS with all the legacy, has dramatically reduced now as well. So better sales, better scalability, much better time to market for those products, better satisfaction for our own people that are doing the sales and service, and much less issues following the provisioning and the activation of the product. So these are the examples that we see already. And as I said, the foundation is scalable. So now when we add more customers, when we add more products, we will have the same end-to-end seamless customer journey coming through in the future.
Thank you. We also know that there is great opportunity in the enterprise segment, and we also know that you are working close with some industry players to drive innovation. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. One of the key things that we started early on was then to say, okay, there's this quality assurance, the quality of service, and what we call the slicing ability that we can then bring to the table. And we have seen some enterprise mobile networks really leveraging those slices across very critical and interesting industries, whether it's the mining, whether it's the forestry, whether it's even the logistics and transportation. And as it comes now, we see that it's much maturing in the way how we are driving those elements of 5G to scale. And what we have done together with you, some industry partners, research institutions, and also the customers, is to push the boundary of the R&D into a very practical application of the 5G capabilities. We call it the NorthStar that we have jointly established. And that is very cool because it's not a lab R&D, it's actually a live R&D where we are seeing what actually works with our customers and what doesn't work, and how can we make sure that we are now industrializing the 5G components, the slicing, the APIs, the edge compute into a real end-to-end customer. We can talk about maybe one example, which I think is very illustrative, which is the truck example. When we say we have a large logistics company, a large truck company who really runs a fleet, we see that now to go into a much more autonomous driving, there will be several streams that are connecting the truck on the road. For example, there's the keep alive kind of signal, which is kind of saying, okay, am I still alive? Is there an alarm ongoing? There may be the actual video stream, which is then the one that is fed back so that we can have the autonomous driving also. And then there's also the maintenance one where we have the whole backup and the whole the data that is going back and forth between the control room and the truck. So there's 3 different slices coming into one truck. And that orchestration by itself is interesting. But then, of course, imagine there's more and more trucks coming on the road. How do we really manage this slicing at scale so that we can monetize this? These are the kinds of the questions that we are asking and we are answering now in this NorthStar program that we have jointly set up.
Thank you. Really interesting to hear. And how do you actually see network slicing impacting your business transformation?
Right. So it's a huge, I think it has a huge impact on many fronts. I mentioned a few industries, whether the logistics, whether even the forestry, we have the mining examples where we go even with the networks underground and connect them. But when it comes to, for example, also where we have traditionally seen the fiber for the wide area networks and the companies, now we see that there are quite some applications to just go completely wireless and then to have the high quality and the service assured connectivity for branches of offices that are out there without even having a fiber. And I think the key that we are going to be seeing is that, as what I mentioned, as industrialization of the quality of service, that we are now having to connect not only the RAN, but we have to connect also the transport. We have to also connect the IT and the services behind, so that we have an end-to-end quality assurance, which is obviously the one that the customer asks. The customer doesn't ask for individual segments. The customer asks for an end-to-end service assurance. So I think this is now how we see industries adopting the 5G capability, and that's also how we see together with Ericsson and you guys to really supply to those innovations in an end-to-end manner.
Yeah, of course, we see similar traction as well with other operators doing similar trials and exercises. Where do you see actually the challenges then for service orchestration and assurances coming together as I would say, a bit of a new concept?
For us, it is going to be quite important that we have an architecture that allows us to orchestrate those different components along what we call the service chain, so that the customer has an end-to-end service. And that requires the configuration part, like the product catalog or the CPQ part, to be in place. And it requires also the ability to then provision through the service order management all these components. And it requires us to be able to having an observability of all these components once the customer is actually using the service, so that we can also monitor whether we comply to the SLAs that we have promised to the customer in the first place. So it is a much more complex task that we are fulfilling in order to provide this end-to-end service on a wireless side, for example, as compared to having a static fiber that is just running to the customer once and then it's done. And therefore, the IT architecture that we have set up together with Ericsson and you guys is really a critical component in a transformation that we are doing as Telia, and a transformation that we help our customers to do to employ those 5G services end-to-end.
Thank you. I think this ties exactly with all we are trying to do with orchestration and assurance and the capability we are now launching. But why did you choose Ericsson for this journey?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, in our transformation, we have been very selective in whom we partner with and whom we don't partner with. And we are really, I think, a demanding company. We have been pushing the boundaries together. Along, like I said, not only the radio access side, but along the IT, the BSS side, and along pushing the boundaries for innovation. And for me, it's three elements that really signify Ericsson as a partner. Number one, we feel that with Ericsson, we just have a cutting-edge set of products and services, and we also have confidence that those cutting-edge products and services are being maintained, and there's a life cycle behind them, because we just don't want to have one innovation then it fizzles out. It has to have a sustainability. The second element, which I can just personally also say, and I want to say thank you, Mats, yourself, and many of your people, it just is there's a personal connection between the companies, I feel, and not only between the companies, but between our people on all levels, whether it's Börje, whether it's us, whether it's our people and the engineers even doing all the great work. I mean, there is just a very passionate collaboration that we have established over many, many years. And to that point, many years, the third component for me is we just have almost like a responsibility together for the industry and for our region. So there's a connection between the companies which make it very natural to have that partnership. But we have to earn it every single day. We are pushing the boundaries, we are pushing ourselves. But I want to thank you for having this partnership with us, for sure.
Thank you. And I think a lot of good work done together during the last couple of years. So what is your future ambitions now? So I think you have built a platform. What can you do with it?
So for us, it has been important in our transformation that we set a foundation that scales. Of course, drive simplification further, drive the standardization further, but really it's about scaling and industrializing some of the innovations that we see our customers are demanding from us. For us, the transformation is not just a project that starts and stops. What we actually want is that we as Telia become transformative in our DNA. So we can even say that transformation becomes the new norm. We don't have to talk about transformation. It's always about being better 1% every single day to improve the experiences and, of course, to improve the business that we are driving. So we are very excited about the future, the next 3 years. We just basically completed the first phase of our transformation. And now we are entering the next phase of our transformation also with a new CEO. We are very excited about that, and we'll look forward into the future together with you.
Thank you, Rainer, for your really good insights, and of course also for the partnership we had during the last couple of years. And by that, I will also now hand over to Gordon.